So the whole purpose of tonight is lose 20 pounds without drugs. That's the purpose of tonight. So leaving the office tonight, you'll have a plan to put into action for the next 28 days to start moving your body towards leaner, fitter, stronger, less body fat. And we're going to do it without cheating, meaning you could just not do the work that we're going to talk about, go do an injection that's popular right now, and you could probably lose 20 pounds. The problem is, if your goal is to get healthier, by losing 20 pounds by injecting a medicine to change your physiology temporarily is not going to get you healthier, it's just going to get you skinnier. Does that make sense? And skinny people still don't necessarily live a longer, healthier life. They just have different problems. So we're going to follow the rules that have been laid out for human beings to get fit, lean, strong, and healthy. And I'm going to make it really easy to use, really actionable, right? Not a lot of philosophy and physiology, but instead, what do I do? When do I do it? How often do I do it? And then we can all go and do this and work it out. And so the goal literally is for an average male in this room, you can probably drop 20 pounds easily in 30 days. 28 days, 4 weeks. Average female, it's a little bit different. You guys have a little bit different of a challenge, but 10 to 15 pounds would be like incredible for a female, right? So if that's your goal, you're in the right place. That being said, the first 5 pounds you lose is typically the most fun. Number one, because it's exciting. Number two, you're going to feel it the most because it's actually your physiology changing and decreasing inflammation. So the first 5 pounds is a drop in inflammation. Okay? So don't get upset if you lose 8 pounds and 5 of it was inflammation because your joints feel better, you sleep better, you're not as achy, you're not as stiff. Got it? And then so the whole point is this, is we are living in an environment that is incongruent to human physiology in many ways. And what happens is our body, our brain, is constantly assessing the external environment, creating changes in our hormone pathways, our neurology, in our blood sugar, in our metabolism, in our cells to adapt to the environment that we're choosing to live in. Okay? So a lot of the outcomes that have happened in your life thus far, the way your body feels and looks thus far, is a result of whatever environment you've been in and how well your nervous system can interpret that environment. Now, every one of you in here, I know your faces, right? Except Mike, but I know your wife. So your nervous system is tuned in when you get adjusted. We free up that physiology neurologically so it can adapt. However, I could take somebody with perfect neurology, a perfect neurospinal system, beautiful scans, beautiful x-rays, and put them in an environment with toxic foods, toxic chemicals, not enough sunlight and bad circadian rhythms, and a lot of stress. And what's going to happen? Are they going to be super healthy or are they going to get sick? They're going to adapt as good as they can, but they're still going to get sick. Make sense? So you have to take your healthy nervous system and then put it in the environment that's congruent to itself, the same as any other animal on the planet. If we took a dog or an elephant and fed it hyper-processed foods, ultra-processed foods that we have, and we fed it the toxic stuff that gets put in our bodies and glyphosates and weed killers and all that, right? And we made it sit inside all day, and we didn't let it walk around and didn't let it move, what would happen to the dog or the elephant? Right? The same thing that happens to us. You eventually develop chronic disease, cancers, diabetes, obesity, metabolic issues, and on and on and on. So the point of tonight is take your amazing, beautiful nervous system that you're working on and maintaining and investing in, and now create a beautiful environment. And a lot of you guys are doing this with your spouse, which makes it even more bulletproof because you can call each other out when you're deviating off the path, okay? And that's called an I love you call out, not a I want to make you feel bad call out. There's a difference. We all know the difference. Okay, so the first thing we're going to hit is circadian rhythm. So talking about the environment of the human body. Our bodies were designed to use sunlight to navigate the day and determine what time of day it is, what our physiology should be doing, and then what time of day we're supposed to calm down and then go to sleep. Okay? So if you wake up, turn on the lights in your house, which are not sunlight, eat your breakfast, get in your car, which you might get a little bit of sunlight through the windows, but it doesn't actually count because windows refract the light, so it doesn't work as good. Then you get to work, and you have more of these lights. You work, you eat your lunch at work. Then you might walk to your car, get whatever. Then you get back in your car, drive home, and you're back in the lights again. You are never exposed during the day to the sunlight. Your brain has no idea what time of day it is, what hormones to increase, what hormones to metabolize and decrease. And so what happens is this affects our metabolism. This is why certain people will eat the same diet and have different outcomes. One's leaner, one's fitter, one's moving better, right? One's less achy, and the other one is gaining weight like crazy when they're eating the same dinner every night, okay? So circadian rhythm is our body's natural clock and the natural rhythm of our physiology. It tells us when to amp up and when to slow down and relax. The only way that we can really tune into that system is with sunlight. So one of the first things you're gonna do on this Summer Shape program is when you wake up, within 30 to 60 minutes of waking up, as soon as you can, you go outside in the sun. The rules are no eyeglasses, no sunglasses, no contacts, okay? You're not going to stare into the sun, right? You don't need to do that, but you just need sunlight entering your eyes, which it will because it's really bright, okay? If it's cloudy, if it's bright and sunny, you only really need about 10 minutes for that to enter into your neurology, tell your brain what time of day it is, and change your hormones, okay? If it's cloudy out, you need longer. You need maybe 20, 30 minutes. And so as we get later into this, you can pair that 20 or 30 minutes in the morning with a walk, and then you're killing two birds with one stone, okay? So circadian rhythm is tenet number one of this protocol. The body has to know what time of day it is. So within an hour minimum of waking up, 10 minutes outside, extend it to 20 or 30 if it's cloudy. In the middle of the day, I recommend you do like a lunchtime break. So does anyone here read research ever? Like, most people don't. So there's a phenomenal study that was done, which is very counterintuitive in Sweden, okay? Now, Sweden, mind you, has a very different relationship with the sun because of how north they are, so they get very dark winters and very sunny summers. However, they took smokers in Sweden and they compared longevity over 20 years to non-smokers. And the thing they were measuring was their exposure to sunlight. And what they found was the people who were smokers were going outside and taking smoke breaks, and apparently that exposure to sunlight, its warmth through infrared, the UVA, UVB that makes vitamin D, the signaling it does to our neurology, was enough to equalize their lifespan to anyone who didn't smoke. So it offset smoking was the outcome. So like Kim's joking, if you want to smoke, you better increase your sunlight, and it's a break even. It's literally what the study is saying. And I don't know who funded it. I don't know if it was like Marlboro who funded it, but no, they're saying all-cause mortality was a break even because of their sunlight exposure. All-cause mortality. Amazing. So if you can go outside and do a lunchtime, maybe not a smoke walk or a smoke break, but just go outside and do a sunlight break, do it. The second most important time is this transition walk, which is nighttime. So even if you're going inside all day and then you get home at night, you want to at some time during like sunset, dusk, the evening, spend another 10 minutes outside on your porch, go for a walk, do whatever. This is telling the brain that the sun's going down and it's time for your hormones to change. Cortisol to go down, time to wind the body down to go to sleep. And then when you come back into your house at night, reduce the lights as minimal as possible. You want dark, okay? To take this to an even further extent, you can use red light as night lights at night, or even reading lights. That's what we do in my house. So we have a red reading light that I use to read to my kids at night. All the lights are super dim when we're washing up, instead of the super bright bathroom, which is telling your kids that it's the middle of the day while they're washing up to go to bed, and you wonder why they're wound up, okay? And same with like screen times. Like there's settings on your phone, you can make it warmer with the screen, right? Does everyone know how to do that? Or you can even change your screen to red if you are gonna do light at night. It needs to be dim and red. The best thing is just to not be on it, okay? Until 100 years ago, there was no electricity. We had sunlight, fire, and candles. All of those were red, orange, yellow hues of light, which are the least excitatory, the long wavelengths of light. And as we come over here into this blue-green spectrum, that's what these screens are putting off, okay? These bright blue and greens are what the sun tells us in the middle of the day that it's noon. So bright, harsh, bluish light is the worst light at night, okay? The reason this matters is if your relationship with light is bad, the number one antioxidant your brain makes, melatonin, will be low. So that means your brain gets more oxidative damage and stress. It doesn't heal as well at night. You don't fall asleep as easy. You don't get as good of sleep at night. And your cortisol, which is our stress hormone, it's supposed to be high, peaking in the middle of the day. So if you're uncoordinated with circadian rhythm, you never get the signaling to start melting cortisol away. Okay, so this is huge. This is not a nutrition change, but it's a light nutrition change. And it's pretty easy to do and it's free. But this is going to change your relationship with your hormone pathways. This will be the slowest change that'll happen in our bodies during this 4 weeks. Like it'll take a good week or so. But if you start implementing this tonight and go for a walk at sunset, you'll notice changes with your sleep within a few days. It happens fast, okay? There's a third thing, and I wrote this on your note sheet. And I don't have any affiliation. I'm not endorsing them to any degree, but this is just the one that I use. I have these sunset glasses that I own from a company called Ra Optics, and I wrote on the first page there, on the second page, you got it right there. It's under simple daily schedule, under evening. I wrote in there, look at Ra Optics glasses. Those are like a good, really nice example, really well done. They use spectrometry to like test the light wavelengths which are being blocked by the glasses. They make nighttime glasses called sunset glasses, which are tinted red, and they block all blue, all green, most of yellow and violet. They block all those wavelengths out. You're only getting like red, orange, and a little bit of yellow wavelengths into your eyes. So if you're in an environment where you can't control the lighting at night, but you still want to protect your circadian rhythm, you wear those after the sun goes down. Inside, you don't wear them when you're driving. You don't need to wear them outside. You just wear them inside in artificial light environments after sunset. In my experience, they're way more important in the wintertime because we're getting less sunlight and the sun goes down so early. But those are the glasses you put on and you're like reading and you just fall asleep, or you're watching TV and you fall asleep because it's filtering the light from the television. The only downside is everything looks reddish, and so it alters the color. Like if you were to look at this, it's going to look weird. You'll see that, the red will look red, but some of the other colors will be altered. So it's not the greatest thing in the world if you're like painting or something. If anyone's an artist in here, it might alter your outcome of your painting. So, but red light at night is a night light, non-interruptive to circadian rhythm. Back when we had the dark room for our x-rays, what do they use in a dark room in a photography studio? Does anybody know when they're developing film?
Red light.
Red light, because the wavelengths are so long, they don't disrupt and they don't expose the film. Pretty cool.
I don't remember, but I had to use those. I got red light glasses when I had my migraines.
Mm-hmm.
They were if anybody has migraines, they're very helpful.
Like for computer screens, etc.
Just in general, it
Yeah.
makes the daily light.
Because the stimulation goes down. So you're talking about getting like blue light blocking glasses for migraines. Very helpful. They also make daylight, like daytime ones. If you're working on a screen all day long, you can find blue light blocking glasses that are going to block minimal blue light. That might be enough for you. Ra Optics, they make like an orange, like a yellow tinted one that's not as dark, and it lets some of that daylight through. So it's like you're still awake. You don't want your body to fall asleep at noon, but it's good for internal lighting environments like an office setting, or if you're on a computer all day for work, that's a great option. They do a daylight. You were using the full ones. Yeah,
Yes.
correct.
I don't from my doctor.
So the next step is we're going to eat proteins as our first meal of the day. Okay? And there's many reasons for this. The first reason is when you're moving your body away from carbohydrates as its main fuel for energy. We were made to eat carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are not the devil. However, ultra-processed foods, breads, pastas, cookies, crackers, rice, white potatoes, all these type of things that we overeat become a problem when the nerve system's dysregulated, when the circadian rhythm's dysregulated, and when they're overconsumed. And the insulin and cortisol pathways get messed up, okay? those things are going to be kept to a minimum. I keep those to a minimum every day all my life. What we're doing with protein consumption in the morning is when you're losing weight, you're not going to starve yourself. That's not how you lose weight. What you're doing is giving the body what it needs, its building blocks to make what it needs, without giving it stressful, hard to break down, blood sugar spiking, simple carbohydrates. So if you're not going to eat carbohydrates, what are we going to eat? We're going to eat moderate protein and moderate fat. And we know that the best thing in the morning is a high protein meal, okay? If you're going to do this with foods, some of the best foods to eat, and I've listed these out as well, is over here on the slide, you can see them. I love doing eggs. We love doing chicken or turkey sausage because it's not pork-based. We love doing avocados. We love doing full-fat dairy. We love doing smoothies. So dairy meaning like yogurts or cottage cheese. We do a lot of that. Fruits, so this isn't part of the proteins, I'm talking breakfast now, but like berries with yogurt or with cottage cheese is great. Or if you're going to do a smoothie, we'll put even cottage cheese, yogurt, and milk in the smoothie with protein and with fruits. So the goal is to get close to 30 to 50 grams of protein every morning for breakfast. If anyone's ever done this, like I make a shake every morning, and if my family's awake, I'll do it in the blender. We'll make like a full smoothie. If it's just me, I'm usually just doing whole milk, raw milk. I do a protein, collagen, and greens, and just shake it up and drink it. And it's close to 48 grams of protein, and I'm not hungry until noon. Like literally, I'm not looking for food until noon. Okay? And it's because that protein and fat in there are giving your body what it needs to operate. And there's a little bit of carbs in there, minimal. But the goal isn't to be low carb for the rest of your life. The goal is to be low carb to reset your fat burning mode in your body. So it's going to use the stored fat that we've created around our waistline and in between our organs and on our liver, and it's going to pull from that fat and use it as sugar. So fat is stored sugar. So if we want to gain more body fat, we increase sugar, right? And the body says, I can't burn all this. What should I do with it? I'm going to store it as fat. And then when you start burning through your sugar, it takes the fat, moves it back over to sugar, and burns it. So that's the game we're playing. Muscle mass, which we're going to hit on, is the best place ever to burn sugar. So that's, in terms of weight loss and lean body mass, the more muscle mass you have, they are like a sponge for sugar that's coming into your body. So if you're going to eat sugar, we're going to teach you how to work out so you can get more muscle mass, and that muscle is the first thing, the brain and the muscles are the first thing that eats that sugar. Soaks it up, which is why the more muscle mass and lean body weight you have, the more carbohydrates your body can tolerate. If you don't have enough lean body mass and muscle mass, you eat the carbohydrate meal, the sugar comes up, insulin comes up, cortisol comes up with it, and then that's where you get that blood sugar spike, which eventually becomes like a diabetes and a dysregulation. But if the muscles are there to soak that sugar out of the bloodstream, you don't get that insulin and cortisol spike. Make sense? So it's huge. That's where protein decreases blood sugar spikes. So they've seen this where if you eat a bunch of sugar by itself, huge blood sugar spike. It becomes like a peak, and then you're full, you're good for an hour or two, and then boom, it becomes a valley. And I'm sure everyone's experienced this, and you're hungry again right away. So these are what you want to avoid, these peaks and valleys, these high blood sugar spikes. So if you eat protein with carbohydrates, it blunts those spikes and those mountains and valleys down, and you want to make them smooth rolling hills. Smooth rolling hills. So the way we're going to do that is eat protein first. Like I said, about 30 to 50 grams. The goal is with every meal to have, by the end of the day, you total up half your body weight in protein. So if you weigh 200 pounds, 100 pounds. 100 grams of protein. 100 pounds of protein. Get started now. Oh my gosh. I can't eat anymore, right? Half your body weight in grams of protein per day. If you weigh 150 pounds, 75 grams of protein a day. Not hard to do. So I put this little reference. 30 grams of protein is like a piece of chicken breast the size of a deck of cards. It's not a lot of food, you know what I mean? So the problem is a lot of you are not getting any of that protein, and instead it's all sugars and a little bit of fats that are coming in for your meals. So you're just going to substitute that over. If you're over the age of 65, it's actually beneficial to do even more protein and you got to lift weights because your body's not spiking into growing muscle and it's coming down from growing muscle. So it's a little bit harder to put on muscle mass. So you need more protein and more weightlifting. Okay? Now, when you source your proteins, they've got to be healthy animals. Why? Whatever they ate is in that fat and protein, and then you're going to eat it. So if you have a toxic industrial cow eating Tootsie Pops and industrial corn waste, that's coming into your system, and it becomes a toxin, which the body uses fat to store some of these toxins. Okay? So some of you have to ask me in 4 weeks if you didn't lose anything but a pound doing this, there's a toxicity problem because the body's holding on to that fat-soluble toxins. It doesn't want to let them out in the bloodstream yet, so you got to do a detox instead. But this will get the ball rolling in the right direction, okay? So free-range chicken, eggs, grass-fed and finished beef, bison, lamb, turkey, pasture-raised, wild-caught Pacific salmon. The Atlantic stuff is all farm-raised. They're more toxic. And then we do, at my house, we order from a farm in Indiana, raw dairy. That's all grass-fed. Ghee is clarified butter. So they pull the protein out. It's just pure fat. So this isn't actually a good protein. But that's a great fat to cook in. Kefir, cheeses, yogurts. But again, the source matters. So you want these grass-fed, organic cheeses, milks, yogurts, all those things. This is, we are changing our protein here in the office. Literally today. So this is the new one that we brought in, and I'm going to explain why we're doing this. And then this is the one that we were using as a whey protein. So whey protein is a great way if you are busy, unorganized, hate grocery shopping, hate cooking and cleaning, or you just want a simple, easy thing to focus on, to give you a complete protein meal. And for some of you, it's going to be good because you'll eat your breakfast at home and possibly have a shake in between breakfast and lunch or lunch and dinner as your blood sugar is changing, coming off of sugars. Okay? So the reason we brought this new protein in, and what I like about it is, it's regeneratively farmed grass-fed dairy, which means the cows aren't just eating fertilizer grass from a parking lot. They're eating regeneratively farmed, which means they're on crop-rotated soils where they're growing different things. There's animals, so they're fertilizing here, they're growing here. Does that make sense? This is the old way of farming. Crop rotation, regenerative farming is what it's called now. It sounds really cool, but it's just called farming, right? Industrial farming, we grow one thing for 60 years, we cover it in fertilizers, and then we cover it in pesticides because the soil is not rich enough, and you understand the difference? So we don't want to source the dairy from, we don't want to source it from industrial agriculture. We want to source it from regenerative agriculture. Number one, to support regenerative agriculture with our dollars, and number two, to consume that because those are the healthiest cows on the planet. It's A2 casein protein. What that means is almost 99% of protein in milk that everyone is sensitive to, mucousy, bloating, irritated, is A1 casein. Okay, that's what people have immune responses to in milk protein. This is a different type of Jersey cow that's an A2 protein. So it's really easy to digest. It's almost not going to mess with anybody unless you have severe dairy allergies, which you wouldn't use whey protein anyways. You'd use plant protein. Okay, it's 25 grams of protein. You do 2 scoops of it. They've added Celtic sea salt. Okay, and the reason for that is it has sodium, potassium, and magnesium in the salt. So sodium helps mitigate the stress response on your nervous system. Potassium helps bring sugar into your cells, okay? And magnesium helps your body burn fat. So it's giving you all 3 of those minerals in the shake. And then they added a Bacillus subtilis right here. So this is a spore-based probiotic. These little fellers, they make secondary nutrients in our gut that help us absorb and break down these nutrients in the protein. So it's all very synergistic working together. And then they also added from the same regenerative farming, right? Heart, liver, and kidney. So you're not like, cutting a piece of kidney with a fork and eating it, but it's powdered, it's dried, and it's mixed into the protein, which tastes like vanilla or chocolate. But you're getting natural multivitamin from heart, liver. Liver is traditionally the multivitamin of any animal. That's where we store all extra nutrients in there. And then kidney to support the blood. So that's all mixed into this thing. And there's a vanilla and a chocolate. But That's the reason why we're switching to this, is basically you're getting a full meal in 2 scoops of this. You can mix it in either like a coconut milk. You can mix it in water. It tastes fine in water. That's how we sampled it before we got it. And I like mine in milk, cow's milk. Again, anyone who has issues with cow's milk, sometimes it's the pasteurization that's giving you the issue because they're exploding and damaging the proteins in the milk. So if you're sensitive to cow's milk, the second best would be like a coconut milk for this protocol, as opposed to like almond or cashew or any of those, which are a little bit more heavily processed with gums and thickeners, or we just mix it with water. Mix it in with water. So that's the protein. They've also eliminated any added hormones, fillers. It's non-GMO, gluten-free, no artificial colors or flavors, and they're sweetening it instead of with stevia. How many people hate stevia? Just honestly. I don't like stevia. I tolerate it because sometimes it's better than having a bunch of garbage in there. But so they're not using stevia, they're using monk fruit, which is a low glycemic sweetener. So that's the other thing I like about this one. Now we're moving on to carbs. So when should you be eating carbs and what carbs should you be eating? So on this protocol, the carbs you should be eating ideally would be Granny Smith apples, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, lemons, and limes. That'd be the most strict way to do this. Those are essentially non-glycemic. They do not raise your blood sugar barely at all, okay? What you're cutting out of this is breads, pastas, cookies, crackers, refined anything, okay? Pretty easy to do. You just draw a line in the sand and say, I'm not eating any of that stuff. Yes, question? The list of them? Yeah, so apples, Granny Smith apples, grapefruits are on there, lemons and limes, blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries. I mean, if you can find boysenberries, you could eat those. Elder, you know what I mean? Those type of things, but those are harder to get.
Drink it in your tea.
Yeah, you can drink it in your tea for sure. Yeah, and so root vegetables like sweet potatoes and squashes are fine. Those are good carbohydrates. You want to limit those down a little bit to like 1 serving a day. You don't want to just be eating sweet potatoes all day long. But those are best done after a workout, okay? When the body does the workout we're going to teach, it's going to go into a fat burning mode, but it's also going to need some sugar to rebuild the sugar in your muscles, okay? So you do need to replenish carbohydrates. We're not doing a ketogenic diet. That isn't what this is. What we're doing is a moderate protein, moderate fat, low carb, healthy, non-man-made foods, and we're doing the God natural foods that grow on the planet, okay? So what I'm saying is keep carbs strategic. That means eat them after you work out, sometime during the day, preferably in the morning, away from the evening time, so the body can use that energy. Anchor each meal with a protein. So like this should be the largest portion on your plate. Maybe the second would be your vegetables, and hopefully the vegetables are covered in a healthy fat, okay? My advice would be majority of vegetables you're eating to have them cooked. They're easier to digest. You unlock nutrients, especially in like the allium family, the garlics and cauliflower and the cruciferous family. All those, when you cook them, they break down a little bit, enzymes are released, and you actually get more nutritional value from cooking them than eating raw cauliflower or raw broccoli or raw kale. So you don't want to eat those raw. They're very hard to digest, right? And some of you are nodding your head like, I've done that and I've regretted it. I'm not doing that anymore. So cook those. I listed the fats here, like grass-fed pastured meats, wild-caught fish like we talked about, eggs, olives, avocado, grass-fed pasture-raised beef tallow, which is rendered cow fat, extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, or ghee, like we talked about. These are great to cook your veggies in, okay, and kind of, or your eggs in, or your meats in, okay? So you're working these in at every meal. Ideally, like I said, at least that 30 gram 1, 2, 3 times a day, okay? You can use those as snacks, like we use a lot of beef jerky or beef strips as snacks, right? You guys do that? Anyone do that when you're snacking? Instead of reaching for a bag of potato chips, just eat a beef stick. Yeah. I'd prefer that over chips for sure. Yeah. She's saying, but it's processed. It is. Yeah, it is. I haven't made my own yet. It does get expensive. It does. It gets expensive. So We talked about cooking your veggies. We talked about root vegetables and squashes. Any questions on this? Carbs are best after a workout. Yeah. Yep. I'm trying to think of where I have them listed out for you guys. Oh yeah, right down here. These are just some of the easiest ones to find in Illinois. You know, kohlrabi. It depends on what you have access to. But yeah, you can pretty much eat vegetables until you're sick of them. Eat your healthy meats. This is an example of the fats. Okay, so the fat problem in the United States is the majority of fats in a restaurant and any processed packaged food on the planet is ultra processed, meaning they're getting these from little seeds. They're using petrochemicals, high heat, and solvents to extract them. Then they're deodorizing them because they smell rancid because they're rancid. And then they're coloring them so they don't look gray and dead. And then that's pretty much what industrial food is made out of. So if your cells in your body are made out of fat, which they are, and you're eating these on a regular basis, what are your cells made out of? Damaged, rancid fats. It doesn't sound good, and it's not. So instead, when we're talking about high-quality fats, we're using, like I listed, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, butter or ghee. Again, you're getting a grass-fed organic butter, ideally. We talked about coconut oil is good. It depends on the meal you're cooking. Coconut obviously has a little bit of a flavor to it, so it doesn't pair with every recipe. And avocado oil is another good one to cook with. So these are just some examples. Like French fries are one of the worst because they're being fried and refried in the same oil that's been boiling all day. And you're dumping in a white potato in there and then boiling it in rancid fat. So what do you do instead? You get a sweet potato, or like Japanese potatoes. We buy those all the time because they're a little like less flavorful. They're kind of more neutral on the flavor. Cut them up, throw them in your air fryer with a bunch of butter or ghee or tallow all over them. Yeah, and they taste like French fries, but they're not overheated. You're the only one that heated that oil today, so it's not the 36th time. Okay, so roasted vegetables or air fried potatoes. Okay, instead of frying chicken, you grill it, oven bake it, or you can air fry that as well. You can bread it with like cauliflower, what do they call it? Yes, thank you, yeah. Yep. Chips and snacks, you're gonna replace those with healthy fats. So we talk about jerkies, a hard-boiled egg bring with you to work, cottage cheese, healthy fat. Make yourself a little yogurt parfait with some healthy fat, some fruits in between there, right? You can use honey or maple syrup as sweeteners on this, just not egregiously, right? So if my son made you a parfait, there'd be about an inch of maple syrup on the bottom, then a layer, and then some honey, an inch of honey on there. So he can handle that because he hasn't probably stopped running around yet. We also need some sugar in our lives, and those are great sources of healthy sugar, just not in excessive amounts, right? So put a little maple syrup in there, whatever, or your coffee in the morning, phenomenal. So get the fried oils out of there. Now we're gonna marry the meal timing of the day with the circadian rhythm of the day, okay? So we talked about breakfast, 30 to 50 grams to fuel your day and reduce hunger. So you start out not hungry, ready for the day, the brain has what it needs, the muscles have what they need. My personal preference is working out on an empty stomach, drink some water, work out, then do the protein shake. That's just my favorite. Even better, work out outside. Then you're killing like four birds with one stone, right? So you get your workout in, you get your sunlight in, you get your fresh air and your breathing in. It's all happening at once. Then you go in for your circadian rhythm, right? Then you go in for your breakfast. Some of you, it may not work to work out in the morning, and you might have to do it midday. Midday would be second best based on cortisol and circadian rhythm. The worst time to work out is right here, just because it's invigorating to work out if you're doing it the right way, and it's not good to do that right before you go to bed. So we'll clarify that in a second, but protein for breakfast, and it doesn't have to be just a shake. It could be eggs or meat or whatever you want to do for breakfast. I have some ideas on there, on your list on there. Midday fuel this should be your largest meal of the day is lunch. Largest meal of the day is lunch, okay? This is where the body's fully awake, the circadian rhythm is up, the cortisol is up, the body's ready for it, you're fueling the rest of your day, so that should actually be your largest meal of the day, is lunch. How many of you are the most hungry at lunch? That's kind of a good sign that your circadian rhythm is somewhat in sync. Dinner, I said early dinner for a reason because you want this to be your lightest meal and you want it to stop 3 hours before you go to bed. Right? So if you're going to go to bed at 10 p.m., you should be done eating at 7 p.m. Hard to do, but if you've done it, you wake up feeling great, okay? Because you're letting the body shut down instead of digesting this massive meal, and then it can actually sleep and recover and digest and rest and repair while you're sleeping. And then at nighttime, like we talked about, no calories. We're not eating at nighttime, late at night. And instead, what are we doing? Dimming the lights. You can do water. You can put a little salt in your water, a chamomile tea, whatever you want to do to entertain yourself, because that's ultimately what it is at this point, is you're trying to entertain yourself. So entertain yourself with something that's not going to destroy your body, okay? But that's your nighttime. Some of you, the first week, may have some pretty intense cravings as you're doing this. If you're going to eat something late at night before bed, high fat is a good idea. High fat's a good idea, okay? So that's how you marry it all together with the circadian rhythm. This is the supplements to support lifestyle. Supplements support lifestyle. They don't counteract bad choices. They don't replace lifestyle. They don't, right? So the joke in here is always like when someone talks about their bone density scan and it's not good, they're like, well, shouldn't I just do more calcium? And so the joke I always say, just to illustrate it, is like, if you laid on the couch all day and just drank protein shakes, would you have big, strong muscles? No. Otherwise, we'd all just be drinking protein shakes, right? So the signaling, the stimuli has to be there. You got to do the workout and then have the right materials and the right nervous system to put it together and grow. Make sense? So you can't supplement your way out of a bad lifestyle, but you can use it to enhance and give yourself what you're not getting, right? So these ones I've listed out here are very intentionally set up to give your body what it needs to burn fat, build muscle, decrease blood sugar, increase metabolism, and help put all that in together in swing so that you're building momentum towards the body you want. Hopefully by mid-July, you'll be like ready for your bathing suit. So we listed them out here. Men's or women's multivitamin, depending on what gender you are. Take 2 capsules with the first meal of the day. This is important because this is rich in B vitamins. B vitamins help turn the energy wheel of your cells, okay? And that's most important in the morning and midday, and it's less important when you're sleeping. So you want to take that in the morning, okay? Also in the multivitamins. So depending on men and women, there's support for men's cardiovascular and prostate, for women's hormones, inflammation. So they're catered towards the gender-specific problems that we have. But also in that women's vitamin is B1. Vitamin B1 is really, really helpful with heart and with blood sugar. And those nutrients in there will help your body do what it needs to do. That's like, to me, somebody says, what do I take? This is like the ultimate shotgun approach to giving you what you need on a daily basis, regardless of what your diet's bringing in, okay? We don't have a micronutrient assay on every single like piece of lettuce you eat or like piece of meat that you eat. So there's varying degrees of how much nutrients are in these foods. So you're kind of hedging your bet by taking a multivitamin, saying, all right, I'm going to give my body what it needs on a daily basis. And that's going to get in the morning, and it's delayed and kind of seeps throughout. And by about 3 p.m., that'll be out of your system, okay? The next thing that I do daily, Lynette does daily, I do probably 5 days a week, is the protein shake. So with the new whey, it's 2 scoops. It's going to give you 25 grams. It's going to give you the kidney, the liver, the heart, the Celtic sea salt, like we talked about in the probiotics. And then I'm adding a scoop of collagen in here because collagen specific is to your connective tissue systems, your blood vessels, your skin, your hair, your nails, your bones, your joints, your ligaments. So you're going to support that system. It also helps with sleep. That's a nice one to have as a bonus. So these two get mixed together in your shake. Depending on who you are and what your goals are, if you want to lose weight like crazy, like you're going on a cruise in 3 weeks and you really need to lose weight like crazy, you could do 2 shakes a day. You could literally replace 2 meals a day with the shake. And what I would do is I would keep your lunch, like make your lunch and either bring it with you or if you're home, make it and eat it at home. But do your shake in the morning and a shake for dinner. And that's going to give you what you need, protein, and depending on if you mix it with milk or coconut milk, the fat you need as well. Okay? So the shake is a meal. You mix these two together alone, you're going to be at 37 grams of protein or something like that. I have to do the math, but around 37 grams of protein just by mixing those two together. And then the third nutrient I put on here that is essentially deficient in almost everyone in the room is magnesium. This is a magnesium glycinate, which means it's not just a magnesium raw mineral that gets absorbed in your gut. Instead, it's connected to these amino acids, glycine. It's absorbed into your cells. That's important because in our energy pathway, how our bodies turn fat and sugar into fuel, to turn fat into fuel, you need magnesium. So being deficient in magnesium automatically predisposes you to not being a good fat burner. Magnesium, best taken at night. 2 capsules before bed. For most people, it enhances sleep. Not everybody, but most people. For most people. It comes with an asterisk. If you're not deficient in it, you won't really notice a big difference in sleep, right? But if you're deficient in it, you will notice incredible sleep, like more restful, deeper sleep when you start bringing magnesium in. If you're getting cramps, cramps are usually magnesium deficiency. Yeah. All 4 of these, so the way we're doing it tonight is all 4 of these are 20% off. You don't have to buy all 4. Like some of you have been here at our workshops. We're like, here's the bundle. We kind of set it up for you to automatically have what you need for the next 4 weeks. So the reason I did it this way is because this protein shake, there's 20 servings in this protein, okay? Which is enough for you to do 5 shakes a week to last a month. You follow my math there? If you're doing shakes daily or you intend on replacing multiple meals a day with a shake, then you're going to need more than 1 bottle. But all 4 of these are 20% off. And then as we always do, because you showed up, anything else you need in the office, supplement-wise, is 10% off. Just in case you need other things to stock up on or whatever. It's just kind of like a, thanks for showing up, we see you. But that's the support for the lifestyle change that we're making. Now we're getting into fitness, okay? Everyone's favorite part, we're all going to get up and work out. We're not going to do it tonight because we don't have time. We've done it before. I'm not afraid to do it. If anyone wants to, give me the look. I'm just kidding. So we're going to build our fat-burning metabolism by using these techniques, okay? This is super important. Most of this is written down. Actually, all of this is written down on your notes here, okay, as your action steps. Fat loss is easier when you build muscle. Why? Muscles are hungry, so they need fuel. And the way our body stores fuel is as fat. So if we're burning through some of our fuel, we're going to lose weight. Make sense? So we want to increase muscle mass, and we also want to increase the stimulation from our environment. Our brain's going to say, oh my gosh, all of a sudden she is working out a lot more than before. I better change my cortisol, my insulin. I better upregulate muscle growth. I better get some fat out of these stored in the liver and in the viscera and in my waistline and bring it out here so we can use it. Make sense? So we're going to give the body the signaling it needs to create the body that we want. Muscle mass uses glucose and lowers your blood sugar. That's what I just said. So the point of it is blood sugar dysregulation will lead to stored fat most of the time. Circadian rhythm, protein for breakfast, and a good workout will help fix that, okay? So here's the plan, okay? It's basically 3 things that we're going to do. We're going to do 3 different types of movements scattered throughout the week. So the easiest one to talk about and the most consistent one is daily, low-intensity, walking, yoga, tai chi movement, okay? This is not easy to do because we're driving everywhere, okay? So you don't accidentally walk 10,000 steps these days unless you go out of your way and make a commitment to do it. So this might mean in the morning, when you're doing your sunlight, you're walking. This might mean when you do your grocery shopping, you park at the back of the lot intentionally to add all that walking you need to do, okay? Because this is what happens in any country that has a walkable area and no cars or minimal cars or tiny little Fiats that don't fit through the little narrow alleyways from 300 AD. You have to walk everywhere, okay? And guess what happens when you walk everywhere? You're constantly using sugar and fat for fuel in a healthy, non-stressful way. So daily walking, the goal would be to get in that 8,000 to 12,000 steps range, because this is a good like average for a human being to just daily output walking, okay? The most important walk of the day you could ever take is after your dinner. So this has also been studied. You give someone a meal, measure their blood sugar, give someone else a meal, let them go for a 10 to 20, maybe even 30-minute walk after the meal. The blood sugar stays way lower. Way less of a shock to the system, like we talked about, that insulin and cortisol shock. So walk as much as you can. It's lower energy cost, so it's not exhausting, and it allows you to recover from the strengthening days. Then we have 2 to 4 days a week, and again, you're going to try to alternate this, is what's called zone 2 cardio. So zone 2 cardio is essentially you're working out, but you could carry on a conversation because you don't have to breathe that hard, okay? So this might be like playing pickleball. This might be walking on a golf course. This might be going for a jog. This might be cycling a little bit of this burst training concept into a low intensity activity such as walking. It might be riding a bike, okay? You go for a bike ride and you can talk to your riding partner, right? It's not, that's where we're getting to next, but you can have a conversation. So zone 2 cardio puts the body into fat burning mode because it's less stressful of a cortisol spike. So it's a little bit less of a shock to the system, if that makes sense. It just raises the metabolism enough that we can start pulling. You burn through your glycogen stores in your muscles, and your body needs to start pulling stored energy out, okay? Any questions on zone 2? Yep. You're working out, but you can breathe, and you can talk. You might be talking like this a little bit. That's fine. That's zone 2. This one here, 2 to 3 days a week, surge training. You can't talk when you're surge training. That's one of the rules of surge training, okay? If you can talk when you're surge training, you're not doing it right. So surge training is 80 to 90% max output. You can surge train anything as long as you do it fast and intense enough to get the body moving, okay? And we've done it in here, those of you that have done it in here with me, right? You can run in place and surge train. So there's literally no excuse to not be able to do this. You don't need any equipment, you don't need anything. You can go for a walk and walk as fast as you can for 3 houses and then walk slow for 2. And your neighbors will be kind of wondering what's wrong with you, but it works, okay? So you're just bursting and stopping, okay? This is the best surge training program I've ever seen, and it's free, okay? It was created by one of our Max Living doctors, Fred Roberto. He set it up to train with the Olympic wrestling team back when he started working with them in 2012, and now it's just free. You just go on the website, maxt3.com, you put your email in. He's got all the old ones in there and a bunch of new ones in there, and there's so much variety. And what I love about it is you can do it at home. You really don't need a bunch of equipment. The majority could be done if you really want to go really, really high level with it. Some bands, maybe a couple dumbbells and a box to jump on would be the extent of how much equipment you need. But you can also scale anything. He scales everything like a beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So you just, every movement, they'll walk you through and you're like, okay, I'm definitely a beginner at that and I'm intermediate at that. And you can kind of choose which ones you want to do. And then it times it out for you and does it. And now they have it where when you get familiar with the workouts, you can just skip through the intro. So you're not having to watch the introduction every single time, okay? But this is to be done 2 to 3 days a week, not 7 days a week. Too much high-intensity training is stressful for the body. So it actually could increase body fat retention. It can make you more inflamed. It can make you more achy and stiff and sore and sleepy and exhausted. So 2 to 3 days a week, and you want to put some space. So if you're going to do it on Monday, maybe your next one would be Thursday or Friday. Make sense? So you do either a Max T3 workout. If you're a cyclist, if you like riding, then you just ride, that's your sprint ride for 15 to 20 minutes, right? You go outside in one of the fields and you just sprint, you sprint down, takes you 30 seconds or 20 seconds, you count to 20 seconds and breathe, and then you sprint back. So a lot of these are either 1 minute on, 1 minute off, or 20 on, 20 off, like it's a Tabata, or 30 on, 30 off. So it's intervals, on, off, on, off, on, off, okay? That's 2 to 3 days a week. That workout is 15 minutes long. It's not an hour. You might warm up a little bit and stretch before you do it. I would recommend that. And you might do a little cool down or maybe do a walk after. But the actual workout, Linda, you know, it's short. It's short. You're catching your breath for another 5 minutes when you're done working out. And then what happens is you're burning fat at an elevated rate for the next 24 to 36 hours. So it literally puts the body in a fat burning mode. Okay? They did some studies on this. I mean, this isn't new. It's just maybe new to you. 97, they did a study. So 80 to 90% of maximal heart rate, that group had significant loss in body fat. They did the same workouts at a lower intensity, right, 60 to 7%, no change in body fat, and no difference in workload existed. Meaning they're lifting the same weight, they're doing the same movement. One's just doing it faster, more intensely. One's doing it slower. This one loses weight, this one doesn't. Cool? They did another one where they actually measured the amount of body fat. A stick of butter from the midline, 3.1 is a pure fat from the trunk. I mean, that's insane amounts of body fat. 3.1 pounds of pure fat. Right? Has anyone seen where I went and go get the fat from Caputo's for these workshops and put it out here? And it's like 10 pounds of fat is like this. It's a lot. So when you're losing weight, it's not all just fat. It's inflammation, it's water, but some of it's fat. But again, this is all done using metabolic conditioning, aka Metcon, aka HIIT training, high intensity interval training, aka surge training, whatever you want to call it, short duration, high intensity. Okay? So then as we summarize all this stuff up, the way you get in shape for summer, you synchronize with the sun. It's easier now this time of year than ever because the sun comes up early, we wake up early, it's out all day, and then you go see it before it goes down to tell your body, time to go down, and then the lights go down with it, okay? And so does your phone, hopefully. Protein for breakfast. If you need a shake for consistency, do your shakes. Keep your carbs under about 50 grams a day. If you're really struggling with sugars and you're craving sugars at night, then you got to keep the carbs pretty low for this to happen. Once you finish these 4 weeks and you divorce yourself from the sugar addiction, you can raise your carbs to 200 or 300 grams a day and not have blood sugar issues and not gain weight as long as you keep that walking, the metabolic conditioning, and the zone 2 happening intermittently throughout the week. So the key is moving, eating the right foods at the right times, giving your body a break before you go to bed, okay? Avoiding all processed and bad oils, sunflower, safflower, canola, cottonseed, corn oil, and soybean oil. Avoid all those. Upgrade your protein and fats, meaning get them from quality sources. And then you're doing your workouts 2 to 3 days a week with walking daily. And then protect your eyes from bright light at night. I almost can't stress how important that is enough. Like some of you will lose 10 pounds just by turning off the television and getting some sunlight in the morning and at night. And you actually you don't even have a nutritional problem or a workout problem. You have a stress hormone circadian rhythm problem.